Hi, back to GST Revision. Today I'm going to revise exemptions specifically of CGST and IGST notification 12 2017 for CGST, notification 9 2017 for IGST. I'll be revising serial numbers 1 to 11, which will cover charitable trust, going concern, it's a very small one, uh, government related exemptions, service to or from the services which are exempted, which are not exempted, houses related exemptions. So without taking any more time, let me start by revising the section through which the power has been given to the government to issue the notifications for exemptions. That is section 11 for CGST, section 6 for IGST. In these sections, the flow in which the exemptions will be brought into in the industry is when the industry will request the council, GST council, the council will recommend it to the central government. Central government will issue the exemption notification, and the date from which it has to be effective, it will be mentioned in the notification. There can be two categories in which we can segregate or divide the exemptions, right? One of the categories is 100% exemption and partial exemption. Another category is conditional exemption, unconditional exemptions. It's very simple to understand. 100% full exempted, partial, a part of it is exempted. Conditional, there is a condition. If it satisfies, then the exemption will be applying on a particular supply. Unconditional, without any condition, if that product or service is provided and it is a goods and supply, and it is uh, let's say the intra and inter falls in India, and your taxable person is there, then the exemption will apply automatically. No condition has to be satisfied. In the notification, if the notification is given for exemption, the central government has power to give a clarification within 1 year with retrospective effect for clarifying the scope or the applicability. There are lots of times in which the some kind of problem occurs. Just for example, it's not it's not exactly there. Uh, yeah, suppose a notification was there that salt is exempted, 100% exempted, right? Uh, Now, after some time, let's say a definite category of salt, another salt, maybe uh, raw salt, they also demanded that if the purified salt is included by this word, salt is exempted, then we have to be included too. And after within 1 year, let's say suppose central government issues a notification clarification through notification saying that salt will include the raw salt too. Uh, that notification will be applicable from retrospectively from the original date in which the salt was exempted. That's the power that has been given to the central government too. Special order is also another power that has been given to the central government through which they can uh, exempt specific, very special nature products in exceptional situations. Just for example, Tendulkar Ferrari case is a part of this special order thing. The The Ferrari case was before, obviously, in the but same law has been implemented in GST, and it can be related to that case. Okay, anyhow, let me come down to the serial numbers. Exemption notification number 12 by 2017 and 9 by 2017. Under both the notifications, serial number 1 tells us about exemptions related to charitable trust. Charitable trust does some charitable activity and receives some consideration. GST on that is not required to be paid because this has been included in the exemptions, and so registration also need not be taken because no tax liability comes into picture if the charitable activity is related to 4 particular activities. Those 4 particular activities are: one is care and counseling, of the persons who are terminally ill, disabled, HIV and AIDS, addicted to narcotics or drugs or alcohol. I said care and counseling of these persons. Suppose I'll say these persons by referring to those people who are ill, disabled, HIV or AIDS, addicted to narcotics or drugs or alcohol. Then care and counseling is included, and awareness, any activity to aware people about these exact people also is included in these activities. Advancement of religious or spiritual or yoga, this is also included. Yeah. Education or skill development for homeless children, abused or traumatized person, prisoners, or over 65 in rural area, over 65 is in rural area, right? Then any activity for preservation of environment, that is for water side, forest, wildlife, etc. Uh, so these all activities, if done, then charitable trust need not take registration and may not pay GST because these are exempted. Second one is serial number 2 tells us about going concerns. If a going concern entity is transferred from one entity to another, then it is exempted here. You see, why there has to be exemption like this? Of course, I mean, sale of an entity, why it has to be included in the exemptions? Because it has been included in the definition of goods. It comes, I'm sorry, it's not goods, it's services. It comes under the ambit of the definition of services. So as it has already come, it has to be excluded because they have taken a broad definition of services. Any service other than goods, that is a service. Anything other than goods, I mean, the definition of services, anything other than goods is service. So from that, specific things that did not be leviable to GST has been excluded through exemptions. One of those, for example, is going concern, I mean, transfer of going concern entity or part. Uh, okay, it's not service, I guess. It's not service. It comes under the definition of goods, transfer going concern entity. Yeah, right. The same way, I mean, either service or goods, the same way it comes under that. I mean, it becomes leviable to GST, so it has been excluded through exemption. Anyhow, let's come down to the government part. Central government, state government, union territory, local authority, government authority. To these persons, if service given or these persons give a service related to a particular group of activities, then those on those exemption has been given under GST. Those activities are of 2 categories. One comes under 243G, one comes under 243W. Under G, for example, land consolidation, land for tile, leasing, etc. under 243W, urban and town planning, water supply, public health, cattle pond, park or garden maintenance, etc. So, if these activities has been done by a third party for, or these services have been given by a third party to the central government, state government, union territory, local authority, government authority, service tax is exempted. If these activities or these services has been given by central government, state government, union territory, local authority, government authority to another person, GST is exempted. Anyhow, so government related activities has a broad is a broad category. Like this is the thing that I just talked about, the 243W and 243Z G. It has been covered in serial number 3, 4, and 5. And many other serial numbers of these notifications also talk about government related activities. For example, serial number 6, 7, 8, 9, 47, 51, and many more to come. So, serial number 6, 7, 8, 9, 47, 51. These 7, sorry, 6 serial numbers I'll be discussing at a time. And once I get to know more serial numbers which are related to the government, I'll be revising that afterwards in the upcoming videos. So, first of all, serial number 51, GSTN. What is GSTN? GSTN is an entity that has been formed in order to maintain the website part related to GST, the portals, the returns, the refund, any procedural activity, all are being done by GSTN. It is an entity. Now, when it does these activities, and it does for central government, state government, union territory, and local authority, then you see there is a service and it is a supply because they receive fund from central government. There is a consideration. It is a service. It is a supply because there is a country consideration and intra and inter, or it can be determined, and the taxable person also can be determined. So the exemption has been given to the this kind of activities so that unnecessary channelization of money will be done only because GST is a part of the government. If GST starts paying GST on the services that it gives to central government, state government, entity, and local authority, the only thing that will happen is money will come from central government to GST. From GST, money will go to the central government. There is no point in doing all those unnecessary things. The exemption has been given under this serial number 51. For all the other serial numbers that I talked about, those are 6, 7, 8, 9, and 47. I'll be including those in one bundle. And that bundle I divide in 5 parts. Now, in following ways, I divide those. Okay. Number one, if central government, state government, union territory, and local authority gives a service which is related to postal service, for example, speed post, express parcel post, life insurance, agencies, etc., to a central government, state government, union territory, or their respective departments. I mean, central government. Service is post, then there is no GST. This is number 1 out of 5. Number 2 out of 5. Central government, state government, union territory, local authority gives a service to anyone, be it a business entity, be it a other person or a non-business entity. A service is related to post, for example, speed post, express parcel post, life insurance agency, etc., then GST is leviable. Same way, this was the second part. The third part: central government, state government, union territory, local authority gives service to anyone related to aircraft or vessel. What are the service related to aircraft or vessel? The repair and maintenance, the parking of the aircraft and vessels, etc., etc. GST is leviable. No exemption is there. Central government, state government, union territory, local authority. This is the fourth category that I'm talking about. Gives a service to anyone relating to transport of goods or passengers. For example, daily tourism, GST is leviable. Fifth category: central government, state government, union territory, local authority gives a service to non-business entity or other general persons. And the service is any other person except those three that I specifically talked about. That is host, that is aircraft vessel, that is transport of goods and passengers. I have a short form. I mean, sir has given a short form for it. That is PVT, private, P for post, V for vessel, T for transport. Other than these services, any services given to a non-business entity or other general person, then there is no GST. It is exempted under serial number 6 of notification 12 by 2017. So these are five broad categories. There is one more category which has some subcategories. So I have separated from these. If central government, state government, union territory, local authority gives a service to a business entity, if you'll see in the fifth category, I talked about any other service to a non-business entity or other general persons. Why? Because it's different for a business entity. So I've segregated to the sixth category. That is, if central government, state government, and integrated local authority gives a service to business entity, any other service other than those PVT, post vessel transport, then GST will be leviable. However, for this sixth category, there are some exceptions. Meaning thereby, even though the central government, state government, union territory, local authority gives a service to business entity which are other than PVT, it will still be exempted if it is one of these four categories. For example, if aggregate turnover of the business entity is less than 12 lakh or 10 lakh, as the case may be. And if it is related to renting of immovable property, if the business entity is also a central government, state government, union territory, local authority, I mean, a central government to central government service is what? Other than the PVT, it is also exempted. If the consideration for the service is less than 5,000 rupees, it is also exempted, even though it is a service to the business entity. If it is a continuous supply under this third category, there is one more explanation to it. If it is a continuous supply, then the limit of 5,000 will be considered for the whole year. Anyhow, if the registration is required under any law and testing, safety check, certification, including fine license required under any law, these kind of services are being given by central government, state government, union territory, local authority to other persons, to the general public. Such services are exempted. So apart from these four categories, there is aggregate turnover, government to government, 5,000 rupees. And the last one was those registration services, etc. Apart from these services, if the central government, state government, union territory, local authority gives any other service to a business entity, it becomes taxable. Again, other than PVT also. So PVT is a separate part. These four things are separate part. Other than these services, if other than these services are being provided to business entity, there is GST leviable on that. So this is a broad classification of the government related exemptions. Next, we come to serial number 10, which talks about housing for all urban mission, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, beneficiary led individual housing house constructions. These are some of the government related services that is generally given to economic weak group or lower income group. If these are pure labor service, then GST is exempted on this. Serial number 10 is over. Serial number 11, a house related exemption. Again, a house can be a single unit for one family, like kothi, house, or villa. A house as a single unit when it is sold. The goods part, not sold, when it is constructed. The goods part, when you purchase the goods which are related to constructing a house, on that GST is leviable. It's a purchase of the goods. It comes under the ambit of GST. There is no exemption for it. If the service is taken from somebody for construction of the services, for construction of the house, the services like pure labor, contracts of original work, then no GST is there. When I say original work, what do I mean? All new constructions, not extension, all new constructions. Okay. If the goods and services from single entity, we didn't bother about anything. We just said to somebody that you purchase the goods, you construct my house, I'll pay you money likewise. If that's the case, then it comes under the ambit of works contract. There is no exemption for it. So house can be a single unit. Under single unit, these three categories that I've discussed, the house can also be a part of residential complex, that is building with multiple units. If it is a part of residential complex, then it can be a constructed flat. It can be construction linked plan. It means the construction might be over, the construction might be going on. If the construction is already over, it is a constructed flat, then there is no GST because it comes under the it is excluded from the uh, definition of supply. It is not a supply in the first place. It is a goods, then it is not a supply. So it goes out of the ambit of GST. Anyways, so if it is a house is a part of the residential complex and it is a constructed flat already, then there is no GST. If it is a house as a constructed as a part of the residential complex and it is a construction linked plan, that is construction is still going on, then it is a deemed supply and no exemption is there for it. That's all about the house. That's all about today. Up to the serial number 11, all of the notifications, uh, exemptions, sorry. I'll be revising afterwards. Thank you very much. That's all for today.